Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Miasin. So today we're actually going to be reviewing Swordmaster of the Bewitching Iris, which is basically a new hand trap from Dawn of Majesty. It's a level 8 spellcaster light, and it doesn't really have the same typical effect that you usually see in a hand trap. So this is a bit more similar to a card like Phantasme. And of course, before we actually get into the card review and try to figure out how good this card is in the meta, I'm going to ask you guys a friendly reminder, of course, to like and subscribe. Motivates me so much to keep making videos like these. And now let's jump right into it. Alright, so the card actually has two effects. The first one is a special summoning effect, so during either player's main phase, if a monster on the field whose effects are negated, you can actually special summon this card from the hand. So notice that you can actually summon this during your opponent's main phase and also on your own main phase. And the second effect is when your opponent special summons a monster, depending on where it was actually special summoned, apply one of three effects. So if they special summon a monster from the hand, you can also special summon a monster from your hand, which could actually be practical in interrupting your opponent with, I don't know, summoning like a Christie on your opponent's turn, or like a wind barrier statue, something, the monster that Simorg would actually summon. And also, if they summon a monster from the deck, which, could actually happen because of cards like Quick Launch, you can draw two cards, which is actually better than Phantasme. And the third effect is if your opponent special summons a monster from the extra deck, monsters, you can actually destroy one of these monsters summoned from the extra deck, and it does not target, which is very neat. So this card will most likely be used as a hand trap during your opponent's turn, but it could also be kind of like an extender on your own turn if you actually play a bunch of effect negations or like mass negations like Dark Ruler No More, Forbidden Droplet, or if your deck is like Sky Striker and you play a card like Widow Anchor. This could actually be pretty nice at not only allowing you to have even more plays, but also just interrupt your opponent while they are trying to play. If you plan on using this during your opponent's turn, most of the time, unfortunately, you will have to rely on drawing other cards, because it is a bit difficult to, kind of successfully summon this using its first effect if you don't have actual hand traps. You're going to have to rely on your opponent's kind of specific line of plays, but don't worry though, because I'm going to cover this later on. But if you have hand traps such as Effect Veiler, Ghost Mourner, and Moonlit Chill, or Infinite Impermanence, well, you can actually negate the full effects of a monster and then actually special summon this card from the hand. Now, some examples of decks or cards that could actually special summoning like monsters that are instantly negated as soon as they hit the field. First of all, Crystron Needle Fiber is actually not one of these cards, because it actually doesn't negate the effect of whichever monster you summon, but rather prevents it, like the monster, from activating its effect, which is not really the same thing. But if we're talking about like actual just negation, like negated effects, Virtual Worlds actually, with Virtual World Lao Lao and Zwan Hu, both negate the effects of whichever monster you actually summon back from the graveyard. And then there is also trap decks that actually would use cards like Ice Dragon's Prison to revive back a monster from your opponent's graveyard if they choose not to use the banish effect on both sides. And finally, there is Zodiac with Zodiac Chakanine when it uses the effect to revive back a Zodiac monster from the graveyard. So you can kind of see where this is going. The issue is that regardless of how you use this card, unfortunately it is never really a proactive card. It's always really reactive and relies on either other cards, like I said, or your opponent doing something specific. So when you just see the card, you can't just be like, oh, I'm in a good mood, this card is really good. And also, if you plan on using this against specific decks in the format, because these decks are more like known to actually special summon like monsters that are negated, well, it's not going to be a really good main deck card, but rather a good side deck card. And there are already a lot of good side deck cards, so just tell yourself, is this card just objectively better than the cards that I'm actually trying to cut in order to play this? That's definitely up to you, and it also depends on the format. But to be fair, I think that currently at the moment, this card will not be reliable enough. On the other hand, if you actually successfully resolve this, special summon it, and then use it as a monster kind of floodgate, a walking floodgate on your opponent's turn, you're getting so many pluses, like I said, and you're actually just being significantly ahead of the curve, because you're not only going to be keeping the monster on the field, and every single turn when your opponent does something, you trigger the effect over and over and over. It's not really like Phantasme, where it only happens the moment you use the effect from the hand, so you draw two, then put back one, but then the Phantasme doesn't really do that much later on. Sure, it actually protects your monsters from being targeted by card effects if you can just discard one card and negate, but you can still argue that the Swordmaster of the Bewitching Iris has a better on-field effect, and this is definitely what people will try to be looking for. And of course, like I said, you don't actually have to use its first effect in order to use the second effects, well, the 3 effects from the second effect basically of this card. So in conclusion, do I actually think that this card is broken? Definitely not. I'm sorry. I think this card will unfortunately just end up being the next Iron Dragon Tiamaton, where people look at it and be like, you know, this is a really great card, looks cool and stuff, and some techie players will definitely put this in their deck, but it will only really shine in very specific and niche formats and scenarios, and because of that, I think this card will not be as great as people could actually think it would be. And also, I do think that it will take an ultra rare or a secret rare spot, just because of how this card kind of, like I said, resembles a lot like 3 Tactic Talents, where it has like really powerful effects in one card, and 3 as well in one card. So basically the same concept in a way, where you draw 2 cards, you destroy, you interrupt a card your opponent controls. It's just really, it's a nice concept, but unfortunately not the perfect timing to receive a card like that. So yeah, I would still actually invest in this card before it actually becomes too late, in case one day it becomes like really good, because it'll probably be quite cheap on the release until someone eventually breaks the card. But yeah, that's all I had to say and talk about for this Swordmaster Bewitching Iris card review. If you guys have any comments or feedback or anything, definitely let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, because it motivates me so much to keep making videos like these, and I will see you next time. Peace.